Good afternoon. Mike Shea here in the Orlando office, Transworld Business Advisors. So I was on a listing appointment yesterday and something occurred to me, and I haven't figured out how I'm going to market or articulate this correctly. But one of the disconnects that sellers or prospective sellers experience is that they don't understand the ecosystem of the marketplace and how business brokers work in different markets. Now, in Florida, there is a vibrant marketplace. There is the BBF, the Business Brokers of Florida, and there's some standard rules and mandated cooperation between the parties where brokers work together. There still remains an element of passive aggressiveness where brokers will do what's called pocket listings or not be that easy to work with and passive aggressively kind of discourage brokerage from good co-brokering from happening where there's a broker representing a buyer and there's a broker representing a seller and there's healthy competition which drives the price up, et cetera, et cetera, which is how real estate markets work, where the consumer is the best. Business brokerage or the consumer is at the top of mind, and the customer gets the best and it's a free open marketplace. Much like you see in real estate, where competition is good and it drives values up, like you're seeing right now in the real estate market. There's a shortage of inventory. There's heavy competition, so the sellers are really having a great time selling property. Um, a lot of times I'm discussing with sellers, and they assume that occurs in business brokerage. And in Florida, it largely does for those members of the brokerage of the association who play by the rules and understand and have the right motivations. Um, as I was at my UFG Expo and I was meeting with my franchisees, those markets don't have that. So the vast majority of markets, the brokers do not cooperate with each other. At Transworld, we believe in it philosophically. Indeed, my CEO goes out and speaks at these associations and shows them the data and how it's really in the long term is good for everybody. What sellers don't understand, because they're not involved in it every day or don't get to know, they only get to know what they're told. And their point of reference or their contact with the marketplace is that one broker they're interviewing. And like anything, you only know what you know. So if that broker is telling you, yes, it could take 2 years, yeah, you have to pay me up front um, because it's really hard to sell businesses. It's hard to sell businesses because the marketplaces aren't efficient. And if the broker is not trying to market it through an efficient marketplace, i.e., imagine an MLS where buyers could access the data and see what's out there, thus creating competition and visibility while maintaining confidentiality, then what I call deal velocity would accelerate, speed to close, assuming all things are equal, assuming your books or records are right, assuming you're priced, assuming you're reasonable. If your business gets exposed, it will sell. If the broker doesn't do that, then your speed is going to slow down naturally. The other thing they don't understand is where the buyers come from. There's an assumption on the part of the sellers that um, why would a broker be in the business if they can't make money? So here's a scary statistic. The lar- there are probably 800 to 850 businesses sold in the state of Florida last year, and there are about 860 some odd brokers in the state of Florida. Do the math. That's less than one per broker. Now, I will tell you, my firm does north of 300, and I do north of 20 to 30 deals a year. So, what does that mean for the rest of the brokers? The vast majority of people in the business taking listings are not selling anything. So, if you're a seller and you go down the path of making price decisions about commissions and fees, because that's the only variable because your experience base is real estate, then you're picking a broker thinking you're getting a deal, even though you haven't spent a dime yet, because the fees are conditioned on success, right? You're thinking you've got the best of the circumstances, but if that broker only sells one or two, then the likelihood of success for you is relatively slim. The hard part is entrepreneurs tend to think their businesses are the greatest thing in the world, and that's because it's wrapped up in their identity and they've spent their life building it. Um, so they make that one bad choice, and that broker may do their level best, but are they truly exposed to the marketplace and are they cooperative? Or is greed or the lack of cash flow on the part of the broker prohibiting them from marketing it properly? What does it cost to put it on a website? What does it cost to drive to networking meetings? What does it cost in terms of time and marketing skills? And does that broker have those marketing skills as it relates to how consumers are shopping and behaving in the marketplace? So if you're in a place like Tennessee that's really inefficient and you've got to work off of BizBuySell or businessbroker.net or LoopNet, and you haven't closed a deal in 2 years, and you have a choice of eating, paying your rent or your mortgage, or running ads for a listing that is overpriced, the choice is pretty easy. The broker is going to not spend that dollar because they have to gauge the likelihood of success for the engagement. And that's where those upfront fees come from, because sellers tend to overprice because of lack of education. So it's a very convoluted process. And sellers inadvertently hurt themselves. One of the dynamics they don't really understand is that buyers don't usually buy what they first approach on. So a buyer inquires on a business, they usually don't buy that business. They're if you watch their behavior, they're on the internet and they're looking at a listing, and they'll make an inquiry, they'll go to the broker will respond. What does the broker do with that contact? Does the broker have an automation system whereby they can reach out and classify and match prospects up to the database? But if the database isn't really a marketplace where there's no inventory, they probably won't do that. So it's very fire and forget, one shot smart missile, and it may make the broker feel like they've got some magic, but it's not an efficient mechanism. One of the things about Transworld that sellers need to understand is that the size is important, because behind the size and the number of listings is a technology platform that matches the buyers to the data. And it's not incumbent upon a human action and human bandwidth or frailties or mistakes or errors to push listings at buyers on a regular basis so they have visibility. And I got to tell you, we've been working on this for the better part of as long as I've been here, which is 16 years, to develop the technology. We're far from perfect in that front, but we are light years ahead of where we were. When a buyer comes into our net, so to speak, on an inquiry, they'll of course get the non-disclosure. They'll of course get a confidential memo or business profile, and then there's the evolution of that specific inquiry. But they're logged into the database, and then they're matched up with listings go forward that match their profile forever until they decide to opt out of that system. So what sellers need to understand, and why that's important, why am I talking about a buyer when I'm worried about a seller, is that that tool keeps the buyers active, keeps them captured in the database, so when your deal comes to market, they get to look at it, which increases your velocity and increases your likelihood of sell. Think of it like chumming the waters if you're fishing. If you're going out tuna fishing and you're just going to stick your one piece of bait in the water and hope to catch that, bluefin that's 1,000 pounds, your likelihood is pretty slim. And it's going to take art. It's going to take skill. It's going to take a whole lot of serendipity and the grace of God to get that deal done, or even to get the buyer to find it in the vast marketplace. The trick then becomes, how do you gather them to the bait hooks? How do you get them to as many deals as possible so they're staying there and they're not looking at other shiny objects in the water? Well, you chum the water. You chum the water with other listings. So as a seller, you need to look at the activity of the broker, the sheer volume of listings they carry, and ask the question about the technological back end. Ask about the support system. Boutique sounds really, really cute, but people are brokers, and brokers as people have limitations and capacity limitations and technological limitations, and their ability to move deals along is sometimes tough. So when you're interviewing your broker, make sure that you understand their resources and tools, because that's going to be largely indicative of how the deals get done. If you have any questions or want to talk some more, give me a call, 321-287-0349. I'm sorry I have to run. There was a call coming in from a client. Again, it's Mike Shabe, your Florida business broker, www.yourfloridabusinessbroker.com, 321-287-0349.